Welcome back to On Texas Football. I'm Jeff Howe, joined by CJ Vogel and the coach Bob Shipley. Time to hand out some grades for a 55-0 win for Texas over Sam Houston. This edition of On Texas Football is brought to you by Allegiant Digital Marketing. We'll tell you more about Chad Markham and Allegiant Digital here later in the show. Guys, let's get right into it. Big night for the Texas offense. It was a get-right game, and boy, did they ever get right. Over 600 yards of total offense, averaging 8.8 yards, almost 9 yards per play. Coach, start with you. Arch Manning goes 18 for 21, 309 yards, 3 touchdowns, has 2 touchdowns on the ground. Arch got back on track. Coach, what's your grade for the quarterback performance in this game?
Yeah, I've got to give Arch a 13 straight passes completed. He had some swagger back, which I wasn't expecting that. And in fact, it probably should have been a penalty. In most cases, but I just love to see that because, the first 3 games we hadn't seen Arch have fun, and have that swagger back. So I thought he played well. He ran well. He got, he's a little shaky at first. We had some balls that we should have probably had yards after the catch if he'd have made a good throw, but he worked through that and then wound up just playing lights out.
CJ, as you give your grade, I'll build on what Coach just said. It seemed like after that tip ball to start, Arch just kind of gained more confidence. 2 of those last 3 completions he had, the bomb to Wingo and then that RPO glance to Wingo. That's about as good, as comfortable, as confident as he's looked throwing the football all year.
Yeah, I couldn't help but think, oh boy, after that first attempt, when the pressure closed the pocket quick, that ball fluttered up in the air, and I'm sitting there thinking, is it's going to be another long day. But no, I'm going to be going to this pad pretty often. I got an A for Arch Manning, and it probably should be an A+. I mean, 18 of 21, 300 yards, 5 total touchdowns. But, Coach, I'm with you. The swagger, the confidence. I was ready to give Arch an A regardless of what he did in the box score, just off of kind of that taunt in the end zone.
Yeah.
It was a taunt.
It was. He
said in the postgame, Coach, that his mom was pretty mad at him postgame. So I liked hearing that too. But no, more than anything, just get that swagger back. We've been missing that from Arch Manning this entire season. Hopefully that snowballs, right? You go into the bye week, you watch the tape, you hear how you've done good, you've taken steps. Now take that into practice and in the swamp, but it's an A for me for Arch.
Guys, I'm going to give the position an A+, and you know what puts it over the top for me? Matthew Caldwell getting a 50-yard run.
How about that?
Even psyched out the camera, guys. So if Matthew Caldwell's 50-yard run, I feel confident putting it over the top, giving it an A+. CJ, I'll start with you on the running back group. Those 3 guys together, Christian Clark, Jarrett Gibson, and James Simon together, average 5 yards per carry, all of them over 50 yards on the ground. What's your grade for the running backs?
I think I'm going right back to it. Again, I liked what I saw, and especially I thought they ran hard. There's a lot of rush attempts in there. No balls hit the ground. I enjoyed seeing that once again. But for me, I look back at the hard running from Jarrett Gibson. I think he had 6-7 rushes that were probably in that 8 to 12 range. I thought Christian Clark had some bright moments as well. James Simon, again, I'll continue to beat the drum that this is a guy that needs more touches, to have a 16-yard run in there in the mix. I liked what I'm seeing, and I still think there's more out there for this group, but altogether, strong, very solid performance for me.
Coach, more than likely they'll get Trey Wisner back for Florida. We'll see C.J. Baxter's health, but at the very least in the non-conference schedule, these last 2 games, you've built some pretty good depth at that position.
Yeah, no doubt. 254 yards rushing last night, and, we scored on 9 straight possessions. And a lot of that was because of the running backs, and it's just it's really kind of exciting to know that we ran the ball so well. Of course, considering the opponent, but our top 2 backs are out, and I want to see more James Simon. I mean, I think Christian Clark, I think those guys are doing a great job, but he's exceptional. I think he's really, really special, and his time is coming. Not quite yet his time, but it's going to be fun to look ahead, for his career because he's special.
Yeah.
Guys, I'm going to go with an A- for the running backs just because I need this group to have CJ let go of his stat. The last time a Texas running back had a 20-plus yard carry in a game was Jaden Blue in the Clemson game last year. I want that to change. I need CJ to find a new money stat. So
I need one. I think we're up to I think it's 175 running back rush attempts now, Jeff.
Well, let's see if they can break that streak against Florida. Actually, a really good defensive front from Florida. Coach Shipley, we're talking about the tight ends before we started recording. We'll group them together with the wide receivers, your skill guys. What's your grade for the wide receivers and tight ends?
You know, if you group them together, I would say an A-. I felt like the tight ends probably didn't do the best job that I was expecting on their blocking, but receiving, obviously they did a good job, and it was really good to see Ryan Wingo and DeAndre come in and have great games. At the receiver position, I think it's Livingston. He is who he is. He's the go-to guy. When you got to have first down, you got to have big play. He's the guy. And I thought they did a good job blocking. Receivers did on the edge, and so I would say combining the two, I would say an A-.
CJ, Coach mentioned DeAndre Moore coming back. I thought the two areas where he really helped, one was the perimeter blocking game, which Coach mentioned, but also giving Arch a reliable target in the intermediate game. They hadn't really hit anything in the intermediate game through the first three games, that it was there on Saturday with DeAndre Moore back.
Yeah, in fact, coming into the season or into this weekend, Arch was 7 of 21 in that 10 to 19 range, that 10 to 20 range. Obviously, he was pretty darn good at it today. But no, for DeAndre Moore specifically, he is so important, maybe as important as anybody on this offense not named Arch Manning. And I say that because of the dirty work, right? And Sark likened him to Jordan Whittington, doing that dirty work and being proud to do it. That's a tough role to ask for, wide receivers. They want the ball, coach. You don't get paid off of your blocking, but you sure do help the team get rolling. So getting him back, that perimeter blocking and seeing hat on a hat, allowing guys to create after the catch was fantastic. Parker Livingstone sure-handed once again. Dalen McCutcheon, a number of really impressive snags there. I'm going to give it a B+, Jeff, and the only reason why it's a B+ is because, look, you get some run from some young guys, right? I thought Aaron Butler should have had a touchdown reception in the end zone from Matthew Caldwell. You look at the receiving stats for Khalil Lockett, Jamie French, negative 17 yards for the two of them. That's because of a lack of blocking on the perimeter from those younger guys. So if we're going to look at it holistically with everybody on the field, it's a B+ for me because there's still plenty of room for those young guys to improve.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Coach and go with the A- just because 163 yards after the catch for Texas in this game. And I'll give it the notch above B+ and go A- just because DeAndre Moore, Coach, you talked about it. We all talked about it. I mean, he makes such a difference for this offense. 79 yards on 5 catches, 32 of his yards came after the catch. So again, just brings a dynamic that this offense was lacking with him. Does a lot for Arch, like we saw Jordan Whittington do previously for Quinn, just being that guy that he knows is going to be there, reliable guy, tough guy, adds a little bit of an edge to that room. Coach, start with you on the offensive line. It seems like there's times where they're really close to springing a back for a really big run if a guy will just stay on a block just a hair longer, or I know penalties are still an issue with that group, but overall, Coach, what's your grade for the offensive line?
Yeah, well, the penalties are an issue. Connor Robertson had, it's just, I gave the offensive line a B. I mean, you're playing Sam Houston, there were times we didn't gain hardly anything, on runs. And there were times when, Arch was pressured, getting hit when he was, delivering the ball. But overall, I thought they did a decent job. You got Cole Hudson out. And I think, obviously it's just really hard to tell against a Sam Houston team. You know, it's just really hard to tell.
Yeah.
But I gave him a B.
Yeah, CJ, let's get your grade. And I'm kind of, I wrote the snap judgments over on ontexasfootball.com and summing up the offensive line play. I was kind of the coach, solid. It wasn't, overwhelming. It wasn't a detriment to you. Just, it was pretty solid from start to finish.
Yeah, solid as a B. And Coach, I'm with you. I'm going with a B as well. Again, penalties, 4 weeks in now, that's just kind of who they are. I've come to accept that. That's not who you'd like to be, and I'm sure it's going to remain a focus point in the bye week. But right now, why would I lend to believe anything else right now than who they are as a team that commits a lot of penalties up front? But on top of that, look, you got a lot of burn for Connor Robertson up front. And I think, again, it's very telling of that left guard spot, who gets the snaps, who the staff wants to roll with moving forward. It's going to be Connor Stroh. And yes, there's plenty of room for him to improve in his game. Lateral quickness, still not a great strength, but you saw run lanes behind him. You saw him moving people in the run game specifically. So a B, plenty of room to improve. Still 5 tackles for loss plus the penalties. That's the reason why, even with 600 total yards, you're not seeing an A for me for this offensive unit.
Right.
Yeah, there are things in the run game, guys, where you could tell they're starting to get confident with a few things. Again, it's not a run game that's overwhelming you right now, but you're starting to see pieces come together. Coach, I'll start with you. The offense overall, I'm guessing you could probably borrow CJ's pad for your grade.
Yeah. I give him an A. Maybe an A minus. Because of the offensive line, but I think they played like I expected them to. Actually, we scored more points than I predicted that we would score. But it was solid considering the opponent. I think it's an A for the offense, maybe an A minus, but hey, it was a big win, a shutout. Give them an A.
CJ, what say you?
To the pad.
Yeah, baby.
To the pad. But look, 600 total yards. You score on all 9 possessions that you have your first unit in. It was very close to a perfect day. Very close. And I probably should write down a little plus on there. But again, the reason why it's not there is what we just talked about, the offensive line. Plenty of room to improve. Penalties again.
Yeah, what I like to, and I'll give an A also. You look at those scoring drives, those 9 consecutive scoring drives to open the game. The first 6, none of them started in Sam Houston territory. So it's not like the defense is getting turnovers or you're getting special teams plays to get short fields. The offense had to string together some drives, and we haven't seen that. And look, Coach, I'll have you put your coaching cap on really quick. We can talk about the caliber of opponent, but you still got to go out and execute a game plan.
Yeah.
Still got to go out and make things happen. You score on 9 consecutive drives. You don't turn the ball over. You go 7 for 7 in the red zone. Arch goes again with only 3 incomplete passes, finishes with 13 straight. At the end of the day, Coach, you still got to execute, and they did a really good job of that on Saturday.
Yeah, that's right. And there were some passes last week that Arch threw that he wouldn't complete on air going against with no defense, just because the balls were so errant and he was so inconsistent. So it's really nice, to see him. Coming back, it's like I said, his first few passes were, they hit the targets, but they could have been better thrown. The guys could have got more yards after the catch. But, after that first series or 2, he really settled in and did a great job. And like I said, like you said, 7 for 7 in the red zone, that's pretty dang good.
There were times last year where Texas, even against overmatched opponents, didn't go 7 for 7 in the red zone. So, just really good to see the offensive execution. A feel good game coming out of this one, guys. Let's go to the defense. And CJ, I'll start with you. We start with the defensive line. PK hasn't had to show a ton. He hasn't needed to. This group is just salty at the point of attack, and again, did what you should do against an overmatched opponent. Gave them zero hope from the jump.
Yeah, they did. And it started with Colin Simmons getting in the backfield for a sack on the first play of the game. How about that? We've been wanting to see more for him. That was very positive to see. But altogether, as a defensive unit, 10 tackles for loss, 5 sacks. Lance Jackson got involved. I loved seeing Brad Spence on the field. I think that's a guy that can be a player for this team. On top of that, you had a 12-yard run. That was the only one that really got loose. Outside of that, I think the longest run Sam Houston State was able to rack up on the evening was about 4 yards. So 26 rush attempts, 27 total yards, sacks included in that, but that's pretty darn good altogether.
You going back to the pad for this one?
In case you forgot.
Coach, we're talking during the game. I think it's actually that 12-yard run by Hunter Watson that CJ mentioned. Got a little loose with contain at times, but again, 26 rushing attempts, 27 yards. You hold an opponent to 2 for 15 on third down, shut them out. I don't care who you're playing against. That's an effort you can celebrate.
Yeah, no doubt. 5 straight 3-and-outs for the defense. That's big. But I'm with you, Jeff. We had some containment problems, and I haven't rewatched the game. I'll rewatch it later today, but it just seems like, that's the fundamental defense, is containing the quarterback. And we didn't do a great job of that a couple of times. But, I think overall our defense played well. Like you said, 5 sacks, 10 tackles for loss. How can you argue with that from that front?
You going with an A for the D-line, Coach?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. I'm going to go A+. CJ stole my thunder a little bit, but Brad Spence plays his tail off. And we'll get to Jelani McDonald and a couple of these other plays, but that was the one that really did good for my football soul. Brad Spence plays his tail off, ninth into the backfield, got a TFL on 4th and 2, so Brad Spence puts it over the top. Hey, guys, before we go any further, going to thank our sponsor for this edition of On Texas Football. They sponsor our grade show each and every Sunday. That's Allegiant Digital Marketing. Did you know that among the top 9 challenges business owners face, the most difficult ones include finding customers, increasing brand awareness, digital advertising, and lead generation? What if I could point you to a local homegrown agency here in Austin that could solve those problems for your business once and for all? For over 25 years, Allegiant Digital Marketing founder and CEO Chad Markham, a UT grad and instructor of the Digital Marketing Boot Camp at UT Austin, has helped thousands of businesses overcome these challenges. Take advantage of their Hook 'em Horn special and save up to $2,500 in advertising. Visit allegiantdigital.com/ontexasfootball to learn more today. Guys, as we move along with our grades, let's get to the linebackers. CJ, start with you. Anthony Hill made his presence felt. I mean, we could just go down the list, but this is, the heartbeat of your defense has been there from the jump.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. And maybe it felt differently having watched it on or when I watch it again on the TV broadcast, but it didn't feel like one linebacker in particular was head and shoulders above the rest. And I looked back at the box score. Look, you have 5 tackles, 4 tackles, 4 tackles. It's a pretty even grouping, but altogether, I thought they played very well. I'm not trying to diminish that group. It just felt like, hey, that's just who they are now. That's their standard. And they played to it once again. Nothing incredibly eye-popping, just going out, doing their job. And again, that was a team that they overmatched in talent tremendously. Probably an A for me, A-, just in the sense that they did exactly what they needed to do. There wasn't many opportunities to punch the ball out. I think the defensive line clobbered that up pretty well. On top of that, you didn't have many opportunities for turnovers because, well, they were punting the ball every 4th play. So altogether, you can't be upset when you shut a team out. It's an A for me for the linebackers.
Yeah, Coach, from the box score to CJ's point, it might be hard to get a feel. Well, what'd your linebackers really do? But again, when you start an opponent 3 and out, 5 straight drives, you're just not on the field that much to really, to really have opportunities to make plays.
Yeah, it's an A for me too, and I think this game showed the versatility of our linebackers. Anthony Hill coming off the edge, and just the way that they can pass rush, they can drop back and cover in coverage and do a great job stopping the run. So again, consider the opponent, but at the same time, I don't have a knock on those guys. I thought they played well. It's an A for me.
I'm going to go A+. You guys want to know what puts it over the top? A Brady Sarkisian TFL puts this over the top.
Wasn't that awesome? And to see you didn't see it, CJ, but they showed Coach Sark on the sidelines after that, and he had a huge smile on his face. And I can tell you, as a father, coaching your son, seeing your kid make a play, it's just really, really rewarding as a coach, and to see, especially probably all the things his son has been through, because obviously he's not a starter, he's not a blue chip guy, but to get in there and make a play like he did, what a proud moment for Sark. I really hope he soaked that in and just really enjoyed it, because it was I was just, my heart was so happy for him when that happened, to see his son in there, and finally all of his hard work, through all the years he's been playing football, to come in and have a tackle for a loss like that. It was a great moment.
CJ, you were in the post game with Sark. He, to Coach Shipley's point, pretty proud dad at that point.
Yeah, 100%. He talked about cool dad moments, and Sark also talked about, well, he got his bell rung the play before on that little blind side on the leak out, so for him to get back up and make that play, I mean, how cool is that? I'm not a dad, but I can only imagine how cool that would be to have your son out there making tackles, making plays like that. So really cool for the Sarks, really cool for Texas football.
Coach, let's go to the secondary. Jelani McDonald, they could have put him on the Jumpman poster with that interception late in the half. Again, when you're that dominant, it's hard to get a feel for how your secondary is playing. But, Coach, what do you think of the secondary?
Oh, how can you not give them an A? I mean, they played their guts out. I think we played close to 20 freshmen, tonight. And it was just really good to see those young guys getting in there and, towards the end of the game and, kind of getting their feet wet and having fun. But Jelani McDonald just made a Superman move. I mean, to go up and get that ball, you could tell he was a basketball player. I've always said that. I love basketball players that play receiver and DB because they know how to high point the ball. And he did it textbook, textbook. It was just an incredible play. I didn't see a point in the game with the secondary where I thought, yeah, that's not good. I felt like they played lights out.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sam Houston finishes the game 13 for 25 passing, 86 yards. CJ said it's hard, but it's hard not to just give A's across the board. But again, with this kind of defensive effort, we're really left with no choice.
Yeah, I'm going back to the well one more time, final time. I'll be using the pad tonight. That's an A for the secondary altogether. You only have one play over 15 yards. It goes for 22. You get a pick, like Coach mentioned. I thought Texas played a lot more cover one man today, maybe with some robber in there as at the linebacking position, but they manned up across the board more than I've ever seen from a Texas defense. Maybe that's a sign of things to come, but I think altogether the Texas defensive staff looked at their opponent and said, we're just going to play sticky coverage. We're going to out-athlete. We're going to stay man-to-man and let our front seven really, really push. But altogether, really impressive stuff from the Texas defense. They did exactly what they were asked to do, and that you couldn't ask for much more against that opponent.
I'm going to stick with my theme. I'm going to go A+. And what puts it over the top for me is there was a third down early in the game where they showed their 3 safety look, and on the snap, Derek Williams and Jelani McDonald bail out as the high safeties. Michael Taft's playing that middle field safety. They try to run a little crosser. He sniffs it out, and he's all over it. I just think, what do you want to run? 3 high safety, whatever you're going to do. PK's got a lot of options on how to handle opponents in the SEC. It's going to be really exciting. Guys, that leads us to defensive overall. Anybody want to give it anything but an A?
No, it's an A.
It's an A, and you know what? I wasn't a math major, but I think 3 A+ means my average for the defense is an A+. So great job for Texas A. You hold an opponent to 2.2 per play, you shut him out. That's something you can celebrate at any level of football, let alone a Division I college football game. You shut somebody out and dominate them the way you're supposed to, you get an A+. Guys, we'll finish it up with the special teams. CJ, I'll start with you on the special teams.
I'll probably give it a B, maybe a B-. You have a kickoff go out of bounds. Texas is getting results in the punt game, and I'm still wondering whether or not that's their best option for the punt return position. Ryan Niblett's had success in the punt return game. Don't get me wrong. Texas has done a great job of setting up those blocks, but You muff a punt today. You have another punt that drops right at your feet in which you misjudged the distance. That very easily could have hit you and created another turnover. It needs to be cleaner. And it's the same issue we've talked about for 4 weeks where the process of the catch of a punt has not been smooth. And I'm only going to wonder when. It's not an if, it's a when does this end up biting Texas in a key position, because it will. And it's not clean. It's got to be better.
Coach, what's your grade for the special teams?
Yeah, it's a B for me as well. It was kind of interesting. It's like Sam Houston just said, we're not working on on kickoff return this week. we're gonna just like let them all go. I don't care where they land. We're gonna let them go. We're not working on that. We got too much other stuff to work on. So the kickoff coverage, you can't grade. You can't grade him for that. But I like Ryan. I mean, I didn't like the fact that he was the punt returner and kickoff returner at the first of the season, just because we've had so many dynamic players back there in the last couple of years, 3 years maybe. I still wish we had somebody back there with a little more juice, but it's hard to argue with his results. But he's a work in progress. That is an art unto itself. Being a punt returner is one of the most difficult things to do. Know when to fair catch it, know when to get out of the way, know how to set up your blocks. I mean, there's a lot to that. People don't realize how difficult it is when you have 11 guys running down the field trying to take your head off at your shoulders, and you're trying to make a decision even on whether you should catch the ball or not. And then when you do catch it, you got to deal with all the angry guys coming down the field, coming for you. It's a tough position to play, very tough position to play. And he's definitely serviceable.
Yeah.
That's what I say about him. He's serviceable, but he's not going to be a game breaker for us back there. But apparently he's as good as we have. Although, who was it back there at the end?
Jalen McCutcheon got a –
Yeah. Yeah. Now that's a guy I'd like to see have an opportunity to catch a punt with some room to work.
Yeah.
He might be electric. I don't know, but I'm glad he's back there. But yeah, it's a B for me with the special teams. Nothing outstanding, but still need to do some work. For sure.
If I can add this too, I thought that Sam Houston State punter had himself a boot on his right foot. I thought some of those punts were touching the moon and the stars at some point last night.
You couldn't see that on TV. That's the one thing about watching it on TV. You can't see those punts.
Yeah,
you don't have a feel for, the hang time.
Yeah.
I mean, he's an Australian punter, by the way, which a lot of teams have Australian punters.
I don't know why everybody just doesn't go to Australia and recruit punters. Get them, whether you get them from the portal or out of high school, just keep recruiting Aussie punters. Guys, there's a scene in the King of the Hill reboot where there's an Uber driver who asks Hank if he's leaving 5 stars, and Hank says, "I'm going to give you 4. That way you've got something to work toward." So I'm going to follow you guys. I'm going to give special teams a B. That way they got something to work toward.
Well, that's right.
Into conference play. Coach, I'll give you first dibs. Any final thoughts as we wrap this up?
Yeah, I just think it's exactly what the doctor ordered, for our football team. You got to have Sark getting his confidence back, getting his swag back. We saw that for sure. Overall, it was a great effort. I think our guys played loose. I think they had fun. And I think it's a perfect game to go into the open week feeling good about yourself. Obviously, being humbled and know that you're not the number 1 team in the country right now. I wouldn't want to play Oklahoma right now. I wouldn't want to play Texas A&M right now. I wouldn't want to play Texas Tech right now. But we'll get there. It's a work in progress. And so I just feel like this game helped us get our feet underneath us again, get our legs going again under us. And, we're going in, and who knows how Florida's going to respond. To the situation that they're in right now. They've got an open week too, to get ready for us. But, overall, I think it's just what the doctor ordered for our team. and there's a lot to build from off of this game.
I bet Billy Napier probably wishes DJ Lagway had an opponent like Sam Houston before the bye week in SEC play instead of playing Miami and LSU back-to-back. CJ, give you the last word.
Yeah, no, Coach took the words right out of my mouth. Exactly what the doctor ordered, 55-0. You get the confidence and swagger back offensively. Defense goes out there and once again puts out another performance that will have them atop of the charts in a lot of statistical categories across the country. So, no, it's all about getting healthy, remaining healthy over the bye week, but gaining that confidence. And I thought Texas did exactly that. They played, for the most part, very injury-free Saturday afternoon. And on top of that, they'll get even more health returning to the lineup whenever they head to the Swamp in 2 weeks. But I loved what I saw. That was the most complete performance, probably the best individual offensive performance for starting unit that we've seen in a few years with Sark, maybe. I don't have the numbers to back that up, but you go 9 for 9 with your starters in the field. No turnovers in general, only 1 sack for 1 yard of a loss. I mean, it felt very clean. And like we've talked about just now, there's so much room for this team to continue to improve, right? They're not close to their ceiling, and that's the most encouraging part of this.
Yeah, and the injuries. We're going to have Alex January and some guys back when we go to Florida.
Good point.
And don't think that doesn't make a difference.
No doubt. CJ, you disappointed me a little bit. I just thought you were going to hold the pad up and just let that stand for the last word. But there it is. Pad makes one last appearance on the grade show. CJ, Coach, thank you guys for the knowledge and expertise. As always, thank you to Matthew behind the scenes for producing it. Thank you to Allegiant Digital Marketing for sponsoring it. If you're not a member over at ontexasfootball.com, you can get over to the site right now. Sign up using the promo code OTFOG. That'll get you 1 year of access at ontexasfootball.com for $39.95. Make sure you like this video and that you're subscribed to the On Texas Football YouTube channel. That way, whether it's here on the channel or over on the site, you're not missing anything before, during, and after every Texas game throughout the 2025 season. For CJ, for Coach, for Matthew, for the entire On Texas Football staff, I'm Jeff Howe. Thank you so much for watching and listening. And until next time, hook 'em.
Hook 'em.